Hello, Facebook people, or just people. I wanted to come online and speak on a couple important topics to me, for me right now, that's on my heart. I'm going to try to go over a perfection pedestal. Good morning, Victoria. I want to go over a perfection pedestal. I want to go over failure. I want to go over setting boundaries. And I want to go over how we speak to people and speak to others. And that might be a lot to go over, but I wrote some notes down so that I could try to stay focused on them. So I'm going to wait just a couple minutes and then I'm going to get started. Let a couple more people come on. This is my perfection pedestal that I drew. I don't know if it's backwards. It probably is, but I don't think it matters other than you probably can't see it. I know, it's on the back of an envelope. So coaches, dads, players, this is for everybody. I first want to talk about a perfection pedestal. So this is the perfection pedestal that I have drawn up. So I put my own name today because I do tend to do this myself. And if you see, that's an itty bitty pedestal, and this is the rest of the world down here. Now there may be lots more people that are putting themselves up on pedestals, but for me, I don't see that. As humans, sometimes we don't see that. So to me, what a perfection pedestal is, it's when we have this idea of what is expected of us. And what I mean by that is we are trying to be perfect. And so as we all know, it's very easy to understand that we can't be perfect. None of us are perfect. But when we put ourselves up on a pedestal of perfection, then it hurts when we fail. It hurts a lot more than it should. And so I think I see this with a lot of my kids coming in, that they're putting themselves on perfection pedestals, as well as parents, coaches, things of that sort. And so we're not talking about more important conversations like you're not going to be perfect. You should not be this high up above thinking that this is where you have to be. When we put ourselves on a perfection pedestal, we are going to fail. And when we do, we're going to fail hard and it's going to hurt. And so one of the things that I speak to my kids about a lot, and before I go into that, I want to talk about a little bit about the importance of the conversations with parents and coaches. And so one of them is, I can speak for myself because I know I've done this as well. As a coach, it's very easy for us to reflect onto our players, our kids, our own expectations of what we expect from them, because it's our ego that gets involved. What I mean by that is, when I first started coaching, giving lessons, it's been about 10 years now, but when I first started, in my head, all of my girls had to be great. They all had to be amazing, which they are, but they had to be the most talented, or else it did not reflect well on me. They couldn't struggle. And so it was my ego that it was attached to the success of my players. And the truth is, there is more to coaching than my kids being the most talented right here, right now. There is a much bigger picture of understanding of what the process is. And so failure, the importance of learning how to fail is extremely important. If I'm in a room full of kids and I ask them, do you want to be a hero? Every single kid of a game, every single kid is going to raise their hand. Of course we do. I want to get the game-winning hit. I want to hit the walk-off home run. I want to pick off the girl at second to end the game. We all want to be the hero. But what we don't talk about enough is the importance of, in order to be a hero, you have to be willing to fail. What I mean by that is, I can't tell you how many times I will give one of my kids a challenge, like there's a runner on first base, I'm going to attempt to pick, I want you to pick the girl off at first base. And I can't tell you how many of my girls say, I don't want to do that because what if I make a bad throw? And so you hear the fear of failure, right? I don't trust that the receiver, my receiver at the other end, can catch the ball and make the tag. I'm afraid that if I overthrow into right field that my coach is going to yell at me. And so because of our fear of failure, we cannot be the hero. And then we don't have the opportunity to be a hero, and then we play scared. So I think it's important that we consistently talk about, hello people, thank you for coming on, about the importance of failure and how to fail, okay? We are going to fail as athletes. And the reality is the great athletes that have ever played this game, they failed more times than most of your kids have even attempted to fail. And so through hard things and through the resilience of continuing to practice to fail or be a hero, we become resilient to it, meaning we get better at it. And so I think part of my job this is not always the case, but I tend to see coaches on the field. Some of them, it just varies per coach, but I think it's important we understand that on the field, there's a bigger picture, and the bigger picture is we want to create fearless players that are unstoppable, that love the game, that have confidence from failing. How do we create that? We create that, first of all, by, not reflecting our disappointment onto our kids and our ego. And one of the ways that I'm talking about this is, I've done this myself, so we're all in the same boat. You only know when you know. But so you're coaching, you're standing on the sidelines, one of your kids strikes out, and everybody goes, ah, and shows that disappointment, right? When that disappointment across your face comes up, that player right in that moment goes, I should be disappointed as well at myself. And then they start beating themselves up. And then the cycle begins of, now I do not want to disappoint myself or my coaches or my teammates. And then the fear of failure sets in, right? So this is the challenge. This is the challenge of coaches. This is the challenge of parents. This is the challenge of players, is to learn that we're going to fail. And how do we understand our failures? One is, good job. After you fail, good job. Can't tell you how many times I say that in my facility after a girl, may not have done the drill quite as well, or she swings and misses at a pitch. They're looking for your reaction as a parent, as a coach. And when your reaction is, good job, now do it again, they realize, I don't have to be disappointed in myself. I can do it again, and it's okay. I'm not going to get yelled at. It's not going to be this big thing. I can do it again and let go of it. And so failure, fear of failure, understanding failure is a conversation that we need to constantly have. So I'm going to give you a scenario of how failures can happen. So let's talk about a couple different at-bat scenarios, okay? And I'll talk about hitting with failure as well as defense. Hitting is so mental. You can have mechanically the greatest swing in the world, but if you're in the box saying, I just don't want to strike out, I just want to put the ball in play. I just don't want to fail. I just don't want to get yelled at. I just want to make my parents happy. It doesn't matter how great your swing is, we're probably going to fail because of all of that pressure, right? Take on the other end, you have a hitter that maybe technically doesn't have the best swing, but they step in the box with a free mind and they think, I can do anything. I can fail, it's okay. I'm going to smash the ball. I'm confident. I can hit well. That mindset is going to take you so much further than any other kind of mindset that we have stepping into the box. And so let's talk about a couple different approaches. I don't like when we say, it's okay for you to strike out as long as you don't strike out looking. Why I don't like that is because we're not building trust. Thank you guys for coming on. We want, as an athlete, as a hitter, we want to build trust in ourselves. And we don't talk about this a lot. This is what I call trust, okay? Trust is, I'm in the box. I have 2 strikes. I know what a ball and a strike is. I know that 2 balls off the plate is not a strike. So instead of swinging at it and losing, you know, my hands getting away from me and me swinging missing, I make the decision, I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to take the pitch because I know it's not a strike. Now, in that decision, I have no control over the outcome, right? But let's give a couple scenarios of how that outcome ends. You take the pitch knowing that you think you're going to trust yourself in knowing that that pitch is not a strike, and the umpire calls it a ball. Now I have just built more trust in myself as a hitter. And that's ultimately what we want, is to trust ourselves in the box, okay? Here's another way that that scenario goes. And by the way, this has happened to all of your athletes, and it's happened to me. It has happened to anybody in athleticism. 2 strikes, pitches 2 balls off the plate. I just don't want to strike out. That's the thinking. That's what's in my back of my mind. I don't feel confident. I just don't want to strike out. So I try to reach for the pitch. I can't hit it, and I strike out. What have I gained? I have not gained trust in myself, and I've struck out. But you know what? We're going to say good job, because at least you didn't strike out looking. That's not the end game. The end game is not to not strike out looking. The end game is to build trust and confidence, because the athlete that trusts themselves, sees the pitch, takes the pitch, and the umpire calls it a ball, is the athlete that learns how to let go of their failures quicker. Here's what I mean by that. My first at bat, I get 2 strikes. Or Jane, it doesn't even have to be me, it can be anybody. Jane's in the box, she gets 2 strikes on her. She trusts that 2 balls off the plate is not a strike. She takes it, umpire calls it a ball. Next pitch, she smashes a double because she trusted herself and had confidence. Here's how that at-bat goes differently. 2 strikes. I see the pitch, 2 balls off the plate. Again, I'm afraid to strike out, so I flail at it knowing that it's not a strike, and I strike out and I haven't built trust, okay? Here's the third way. I have 2 strikes. Pitches 2 balls off the plate. I trust myself. I say I'm going to relax. I trust myself. I know what a ball and a strike is. I'm going to hit a strike or not a hittable pitch. That's a strike. I'm going to take the pitch that I don't think that I can hit because I think it's a ball. I take it. Umpire goes strike 3. Okay? That hitter goes, a mature hitter that understands hitting, that's been communicated this, goes, good job. You got me, umpire. I'll give it to you. You're not going to get me next time. I will beat you next time. And goes back to the dugout. Okay? So you're seeing the 3 scenarios of hitting, and the same thing happens on defense. But I want us to understand that most importantly with hitting, it doesn't really matter the mechanics of the swing. Yes, it's important. Okay? Obviously, it is important, but the number one thing is the mindset stepping into the box. If we step into the box thinking, I will smash the ball, you're probably going to smash the ball. And when you don't, it's letting go of it because I've built trust in myself, and the next at-bat, you're not going to beat me. So understanding failures, talking your kids through your failures, I think is extremely important. By saying, you struck out, we can't strike out looking, what were you thinking? All it does is set in their mind is, okay, I can't trust myself. If the ball is anywhere near the strike zone with 2 strikes, I have to swing at it even if I know it's a ball because I don't want to fail. Okay? So talking to your kids about that failure. Now, I want to talk about, just for a minute, about the importance of setting boundaries. Again, I want to repeat one thing. You cannot be a hero unless you're willing to fail. So allow your kids and your players to fail. And when they fail and they fail hard, tell them, good job, now do it again. Do it again, do it again. It's the repetition that gets them confident and learning how to be better at failure. Any player that's played for a very long time at a high level has learned how to overcome failures and has become resilient to it. Not by avoiding it. We don't avoid failure. We become more resilient from doing it because we do it all the time. Okay? Failure is a part of what we do. I want to talk about a really important, passionate subject for me right now. And it is changing the understanding of what coaching is. And what I mean by, and even our relationship with adults. I think it's really important we talk about this, especially with female athletes. It's really important that we allow our kids to question things. I see a lot of times where coaches say, I want you to do it this way. And when a player questions them on, well, why do you want me to do it that way? The coaches say, I just need you to do it, or something of that sort, where they're not willing to take, for whatever reason, they're not willing to take the time to answer the question as to why we're doing something a certain way. For one, as an athlete, as a female, we like to know why we're doing something. And the second most important thing with that is that it should be okay for us to question. We talk about if someone were to walk off the bridge, your friend were to walk off a bridge, would you follow them? But yet when we're coaching and we're teaching, we're saying, don't question me. We're saying, don't question what I have to say. So just follow me off the bridge. And what I'm saying is, no, we're not following anyone off a bridge. We're going to question. Here's the other thing too. I think it's extremely important that we continue to talk about setting boundaries. It's okay for our daughters to set boundaries with people. And I'm going to continue to speak on this. So if you've heard this from me before, I'm going to continue to talk about it, because if we're not allowing our kids to set boundaries, then they're going to be taken advantage of at some point in their life. And that is not what we want. We want to avoid that. So what I mean by that is, it's important for us to teach our daughters that when a coach says to them, or another human being, and I'm not against coaches, I'm just educating. I love everybody. I'm a coach, okay? But this is education. You only know when you know, okay? And so what I mean by that is, if a coach says to you, man, you need to go back to rec because you suck. They don't even have to say you suck, but they can be saying, man, in other words, you suck. We need to be teaching our daughters that it's okay for them to say, it's not okay for you to speak to me that way. This is really important. We're seeing this link with bullying. We're seeing this all across our world because we're not teaching our girls and our boys how to set boundaries with people and say, that's not okay. It's not acceptable for you to speak to me that way. And I've had this conversation with quite a few of my athletes that come in, believe it or not, about having the courage to say that to their coach. And what we need to recognize is we have no control of the outcome, meaning the outcome might be on the other end, you just need to be quiet and go back and do what you do, or whatever. The outcome may not be pretty at the other end, but if we're willing to stand up for ourselves, we build strength in that. And the second thing with standing up for ourselves is that coach in that moment may not react the way that we want them to, but they're going to think about it. And in reality, we're all learning and growing. I've done everything that I see coaches do. I've shown disappointment from my players. I've threatened them with burpees if they don't do what I want them to do. So fear-based coaching. But to me, that's not the ultimate end game. The ultimate end game is to teach our athletes how to have choice, how to have freedom in their play, to give them the game, allow them to fail. And in all of that, teach them to set boundaries so that they're not taken advantage of, so that they know what a power over younger relationship should look like. Because when we are in a power position, we are authority, we are someone they look up to, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to let them set boundaries, to speak to them with love and grace, and to allow them to question us, and to allow them to create a relationship with us that is not a power dominant relationship. I'm hoping this is like making sense to what I'm talking about, but I tell my girls all the time when they come into the facility, I want you to question me. If you don't like something that I have to say, tell me. This is not a power relationship. This is a connection. This is a relationship where we grow together. And so I have some girls that come in and they're constantly asking questions, and I love it, because if we don't understand what we're doing, then we can't go teach it, which is fun to be able to go teach what we've learned to other people, and we grow in teaching. But then we also can't take that to our coaches and tell them why we're doing something that we're doing. So, all right. I think I hit all the topics. There's more topics that I have coming up, but I've been ranting at you guys for about 20 minutes now. I just want to make sure that people understand what a perfection pedestal is. It's important that we teach our girls that they don't have to be perfect. I've said this before, I put this up here, but having an expectation of a 4.0 GPA is not realistic for every girl or boy. Having no strikeouts is not realistic for any athlete. All of the things that we have in our minds are not realistic. We're not going to be perfect. So how are we going to teach our girls how to fail, and how to fail with success, and how to overcome those failures? The greatest athletes are not the most talented athletes. It's the athletes that let go of their failures the quickest. And the way they do that is by building resilience against failure. How do we build resilience? By failing a lot. So that's my thing. That's my spiel for today. I want to remind you all to fail harder. And what I forgot to mention in all of this is the reason why I'm speaking on these topics is because now that I'm not playing, I played for 30-something years. I'm seeing the importance of failing in real life. I'm seeing the importance of stepping through my own failures or my own fears in real life, because they are scary now, and they were scary. My fear of failure at times in playing the sport were scary. And so how do we step through those fears in order to better ourselves, rather than seeing it as this pink elephant in the room that we're not willing to look at? How do we step through our fears in order to better ourselves in life, and ultimately by leading by example and showing that we failed, and showing our kids our failures, and being willing to step and work through hard things, and showing that and being leading by example, then we don't have to just speak it, we can show it. So I'm done throwing out my gospel today, but thank you guys for coming on and watching me. I'm going to continue to do this. So as things come up on my heart, it's important to know that this is just my personal experience of where I'm at. And I'm speaking this because we only know when we know, meaning it only makes sense when we get it. And so, yes, I'm preaching, I know. It only makes sense when we're willing to continually look to how we can become better. So thank you guys for coming on. I'm done preaching for today. Yeah, fail harder. If you want to be a hero, you have to be willing to fail. Thanks for coming on.